all of your favorite recipes. Simply Food.
You should know by now that you're in for a treat.
Simply Food.
There's no other channel where you'd rather be.
Simply Food. Seafood, pasta, cakes, and pies. Sing and laugh and even cry. Like and share and hit subscribe. Simply Food by TY.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Simply Food by TY, and today I'm going to teach you guys how I make my sun-dried tomato and mozzarella stuffed meatballs. These are perfect as little appetizers, or you can make them on the bigger side and serve them as a main dish. But either way, let's jump right on into it. So this particular step, you can either choose to do it how I'm doing, or you can use the already prepackaged Italian breadcrumbs. That's completely up to you. If you're going to use the Italian breadcrumbs, of course, then skip this step. So what I have here is 3 slices of sourdough bread, and I'm just gradually adding in a little bit of milk at a time. So I would say I probably added in about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of milk total, but you'll see what I want the texture of this to be like. And you want to do this first so that that milk can really soak into the bread and get it nice and soft. This is going to add great texture to your meatballs, and it's also going to make sure that they stay nice and moist, okay? So do not skip this step if you choose to do it the way that I'm doing it, okay? Finish that off and sit that to the side. We'll get back to that momentarily. So what I have here is some flat leaf Italian parsley. I'm chopping up enough so that I probably would have roughly about a cup's worth, I would say. For this particular part, use the fresh parsley. Don't use the dry parsley. In there, I have about a little over 1 pound of ground beef, 16 ounces of mild and spicy Italian sausage. And so what I'm adding in now is some kosher salt and also Italian seasoning, some crushed red pepper flakes. Now, as far as the salt, you know, I would add in about a tablespoon to about almost 2 tablespoons because we're not going to add in any other salt. The Italian seasoning, I would add in about a tablespoon and a half. The crushed red pepper flakes, that's completely up to you as far as how spicy you would like it. And of course, you know, put in as much black pepper as you would like. As you can see, I've added in our bread. I put in 3 eggs as well as our cup of our parsley chopped up. And now I'm adding in some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese that's been grated. And I added in about a half a cup to 1 cup of that. And now we're just going to give this a good mix. Now, some of you may feel like this might be kind of under seasoned, but when I tell you these meatballs are out of this world. And you have to remember, because we added in 2 different types of pork on top of the fact that we've added in that Parmesan cheese, there's going to be a lot of salt and a lot of flavor already built in there, okay? So don't get out of control with adding in too much stuff. Like, this isn't something that you want to add seasonal salt to and all that type of stuff. It'll kind of just ruin the flavor components. I also added in a tablespoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of onion powder, just so you guys know. Sit that to the side. Let's talk about the sun-dried tomatoes. So I like to use the Cento sun-dried tomatoes. I'm going to use the full jar. Of course, you can gauge this upon, you know, how many meatballs you plan on making. But I'm just going to chop these down to a really fine mince. You want them to be nice and small so that, of course, they can fit, you know, inside of, you know, the meatballs. You don't want the chunks to be too big. Now, I'm going to be using the mozzarella pearls just because it literally makes it so much easier to stuff these things. So that's what I prefer to use, but you can absolutely get the block of mozzarella and chop it down yourself, but this is just what I choose to do. While you're starting to prep your meatballs, have your oven preheated at 350 degrees. So as you can see, I took a nice chunk of the meat there. I'm going to put in about 3 of the pearls per meatball and a nice little pinch of the sun-dried tomatoes. And now I'm just going to build it up on the sides to make sure that I'm enclosing the cheese. Now, this particular step is kind of important because you want to avoid all of your cheese just melting out. Now, it's going to naturally happen anyway. I can tell you that right now because that's just the way it is when you're stuffing something with cheese. The cheese is going to find some way to escape, but you can help prevent that by making sure that it's fully closed all the way around. Now, these are going to make pretty decent sized meatballs, and if you're making them about the size that I am, which you can see, I would say is almost about the size of a golf ball, it'll get you roughly about 20 meatballs total. You can absolutely absolutely make these much, much smaller to make them as little tiny appetizers. But that's, completely up to you guys. And as you guys can see, with each meatball, you're going to have bits and pieces of that bread, the parsley, the crushed red pepper flakes. And the best thing is that we add it in the mild and the spicy Italian, so it's going to give the perfect balance. You want to make sure, like I said, that you add in about 3 of those pearls and just a little bit of the sun-dried tomatoes to each meatball. And if you feel like you haven't made your patty wide enough, kind of like how this one is looking here, that's totally fine, you guys. Don't stress. Close it up as much as you can, and then grab yourself some extra meat so that you can kind of patch over the areas where it might escape, because once again, we're going to be browning these off and baking them, so you really want to make sure you trap in as much of that cheese as possible, because if all the cheese melts out, then, it kind of defeats the purpose. It's kind of like when you make mozzarella sticks. You make your mozzarella sticks, and then the next thing you know, you look, all of the cheese is sitting next to the breading. That ain't no fun. I'm going to do that for all of these meatballs, sit them to the side, and now let's go ahead and start browning them off. So in my cast iron skillet, I have it on about a medium temperature. I'm adding in some extra virgin olive oil. And all I'm simply going to do right now is brown them off. I am not trying to fully cook these, but you want to really make sure that you are getting a nice caramelization on all of the sides of the meatballs. It's just going to add great color. And also by doing this, it'll make sure that you don't cook them in the oven for too long. By doing it this way, you're already starting the cooking process. And as you can see, look at that. They look divine already, and they're not even fully cooked. But I'm telling you, this makes the biggest difference, because when they come out of the oven, that beautiful color is already going to be present. You don't have to wait for it to cook in the oven for an extra amount of time, because the longer you cook them in the oven, the higher chance you're going to get of a dry meatball. And if you follow my tips, I promise you, your meatballs are not going to be dry at all. So you're just going to repeat that process. As you can see, I got some beautiful browning on there. And I'm just going to do this, like I said, with all of these meatballs. Now, what I will say is this. When you put them in the oven, you are going to wrap the pan, the entire pan, in aluminum foil. Put it in the oven for 15 minutes. You should not need to bake these for no more than 15 minutes. I promise you, if you bake them any longer, honestly, they're just going to be dry, and you don't want that. You want a lot of moisture, okay? Now, I'm going to be making some tomato sauce. Honestly, you guys, you can use whatever type of tomato sauce you want. You can use marinara. It's up to you. I'm using the palmy crushed tomato. I'm adding in some salt, pepper, some parsley, a little tiny bit of sugar, some garlic powder, and that's just a basic marinara that I've kind of just made. I'm going to use that to line the bottom of my serving dish just for presentation purposes. But just know that these meatballs taste absolutely delicious without any sauce at all. So once they come out of the oven after 15 minutes, let them sit for maybe about a minute or so and just serve them up. It's just that simple. And as you guys saw in that beginning clip when I opened it up for you guys, you saw how extremely moist and delicious the inside of those meatballs looked. It's just that simple, you guys. Look, hey, if you are new to my channel, welcome to Simply Food by TY. If you're one of my returning subscribers, y'all babies know I love y'all so much. And as always, y'all babies stay cute and take care. I hope y'all try out this recipe, and I hope you all have a fabulous holiday. This will be the last recipe you guys will see before the new year, all right? Y'all stay cute, take care. Bye.
Slaying in the kitchen.
Simply Food by TY.
We hope that you enjoyed it.
Simply Food by TY. If you haven't took the time, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Simply